Welcome to week 4, where we're going to talk about the respiratory system. What is human respiration? The human respiratory system allows one to obtain oxygen, eliminate carbon dioxide. Breathing consists of two phases, inspiration and expiration. Inspiration is the process of taking in air, and expiration is the process of blowing out air. This is the human respiratory system. It's the lower respiratory tract and the upper respiratory tract. And as you can see, all of the different parts of the respiratory system, which includes the nose, the mouth, the epiglottis, the pleural membranes, lung, intercostal muscle, rib, diaphragm, your nasal cavity, the throat, the voice box, the windpipe, bronchi, and alveoli. The organs in the respiratory system has different structures, and I just named them in the previous slide. The nose and the nasal cavity warms, moistures, and filters air as it's inhaled. Your throat, your pharynx, is a passageway for air. It leads to the trachea. And the larynx is the voice box where vocal cords are located. It keeps the windpipe open. The trachea, which is the windpipe, is lined with fine hairs called cilia, which filter air before it reaches the lungs. And the bronchi is two branches at the end of the trachea, each lead to a lung. And the bronchioles, a network of smaller branches leading from the bronchi into the lung tissue and ultimately to air sacs. Your alveoli is the functional respiratory units in the lung where gases are exchanged. What are the components of the upper respiratory tract? It's everything that we just listed. And it includes your sinuses, your nasal cavity, your external nose, your nostril, your tongue, your larynx, esophagus, your trachea, your epiglottis, your glottis, pharynx, and opening of the estrogen tube, and your sinuses. The upper respiratory tract functions include passageway for respiration, receptors for smell, filters incoming air to filter larger foreign material, moistures and warms incoming air, and resonating chambers for voice. The components of the lower respiratory tract. And this includes your larynx, your right bronchus, clusters of the alveoli, trachea, left bronchus, and bronchioles. The lower respiratory tract functions. The larynx maintains an open airway. It routes food and air appropriately, assists in sound production, and your trachea transports air to and from lungs. The bronchi branch into the lungs, and the lungs transport air to alveoli for gas exchange. Now let's look at the gas exchange between the blood and the alveoli. The blood flow goes in and it goes through the pulmonary arteriole and then to the capillary network. And when the blood flows out, it goes from the blood flow from the pulmonary venule, and then it goes out. This is the respiratory cycle. Now, when it's in a relaxed state, there's no air movement. If it's an inspiration, then air flows in. That means the ribs move upward and outward due to muscle contraction, and the lung volume increases, causing air pressure to fall. And the diaphragm contracts and flattens, moving downward. Now, for expiration, the air flows out. That's the ribs returning to resting position, and the lung volume decreases, causing air pressure to rise, and the diaphragm relaxes. The measurement of lung capacity is shown here. And this is just based on a normal person and a person with emphysema. If you can see, the emphysema is indicated with the dotted lines. Over to the right, they have the inspiratory reserve, which is at the top, and a person with emphysema is using that inspiratory reserve. But when you look at how the dotted lines go to the bottom, they're also using their expiratory reserve as well. But a normal person reaches the residual volume, and they also have an inspiratory reserve volume that's higher than a person with an emphysema, because they can't breathe as long as a normal person. Now, some of the malfunctions and diseases of the respiratory system includes asthma, which is severe allergic reaction characterized by the constriction of bronchioles. And then you have bronchitis, which is the inflammation of the lining of the bronchioles, and emphysema, which is the condition in which the alveoli deteriorate, causing the lungs to lose their elasticity. And then pneumonia, condition in which the alveoli becomes filled with fluid, preventing the exchange of gases. And then lung cancer, irregular and uncontrolled growth of tumors in the lung tissue. Now, there are 4 respiration processes. That is breathing, your ventilation, air into and out of the lungs. Your external respiration is gas exchange between air and blood. Your internal respiration is gas exchange between blood and tissues. And then you have cellular respiration, which is oxygen used to produce ADP, carbon dioxide, as waste. Thank you, and this is the conclusion of week 4